Hi guys, good evening. Ako si Pia Renada, multimedia reporter ng Rappler, and right now kakatapos lang ng speech ni President Duterte with pandemic task force officials, and I covered it. I monitored the speech, and we're having this video now to sort of help you understand what happened. It was a 54-minute long speech, and alam natin na hindi lahat ng tao gusto manood ng ganong kahabang video. So, isang service ng Rappler that we're trying to do now is to give quick explainers, mga minutes-long explainers of what exactly transpired during these long meetings. So, thank you for tuning in now. We're seeing many people starting to come in, and we're really appreciative of this interest you have in this video. We're hoping it will be useful to you. So I'll begin. Again, this is a recap of what the President said a few minutes earlier during his aired remarks of a meeting in Malacanang earlier today. So, nagsimula yung speech ni President, or it's not really a speech but more of remarks during a meeting. And the video of it began with Duterte reading a list of people who were dismissed by the Ombudsman. So if you are a regular watcher of Duterte's speeches, you will know that he's been doing this for many pandemic task force meetings already. So palagi siya nagbabasa ng list of names of people who were dismissed from the service by the Ombudsman. And this time around, it was everything from Kedancor officials to barangay officials and also military personnel. So the people who were dismissed, matagal na to, dismissed, he was saying that some were dismissed back in August, back in March. So this is actually not very new. The President is just reading decisions from months back to kind of bolster his campaign against corruption. So after that, yung si President began talking about the local government's deals for vaccines. And we know ito yung breaking news, diba, for days already. We've been hearing back-to-back LGUs securing deals for vaccines on their own. So, yung sinabi ni Duterte basically, okay yan, it's fine, the LGUs can do that, they can move independently. And I'll give you a quote from that speech when he said, I am now addressing to the mayors and governors, you can choose any vaccine you like to buy, wala kaming pakialam kung ano ang pipiliin nyo. So yun yung message ni President sa mga mayors and governors who went ahead and signed deals with AstraZeneca, for vaccines for their constituents. Then the next thing that was talked about, a major detail siguro, would be the President saying that during the cabinet meeting nung Monday, si Finance Secretary Sonny Dominguez said that we have the money to start paying for vaccines. And these were mostly money from multilateral agencies like World Bank and Asian Development Bank. So finally, we have international aid that we can use to reserve vaccines. And importante itong update na to because previously, nag-hesitate yung national government to buy vaccines, to actually give money because our laws, like our procurement laws, they were scared to violate that. So kung may international loan, international aid in the form of a loan, maaring hindi siya maging violation because it's like not covered by those procurement laws. So they chose a safer route to use international aid to buy those vaccines. So finally, we have those vaccines and we have that money, and that's why we've been hearing the national government inking deals finally with suppliers like Novavax, etc. So another thing that was mentioned during the meeting was Duterte defended Chinese-made vaccines. So ito yung mga Sinovac, yung Sinopharm. So alam naman natin in the past few days, maraming balita about Sinovac being, people saying that they don't trust Chinese vaccines, especially in the Philippines. Many Filipinos don't trust Chinese-made products, right? And this kind of sentiment kind of grew during the past weeks. So si President Duterte, he said that, quote, Chinese vaccines are as good as any other bakuna na naimbento ng mga Amerikano or mga Europeans. Hindi nagkulang ang Chinese, hindi sila nagkulang sa utak. So yun yung exact quote ni President Duterte defending Chinese-made vaccines. And then he also said that empirical data would bear us out. He was referring probably to clinical trials of Sinovac vaccines that anyway it shows that these vaccines are effective. But we would like to give some context to that because actually there have been controversies surrounding Sinovac clinical trials because may 4 efficacy rates na lumalabas And even if it's not naman that different or that new for different efficacy results to come out for a single vaccine, sa Sinovac for different results. So, and yung mga results na lumalabas, some of these are from studies that involve too small a batch of participants to say that it's actually like a significant result. But dun sa isang Brazil clinical trials ng Sinovac, which is the biggest clinical trials conducted by Sinovac, I think that involves 13,000 people. Yung initial na efficacy results na lumabas was 78%, but only yesterday, Brazil Institute said actually yung efficacy result ng Sinovac there was turned out to be like 53 or 58%. 50-something%. So much lower, right, than the 78%, and much lower than the 70% efficacy rating of vaccines like AstraZeneca's vaccine. So yeah, we would just like to give context to that comment by the president. So he also said, tabla lahat yan, referring to the vaccines being developed now. Obviously, this is not strictly true. I mean, yes, they might all be effective, but iba yung efficacy rates and iba naman yung issues that confront each and every one of those vaccines. There are some vaccines that require ultra cold temperatures, so they might not be fit for certain countries or certain facilities. So maraming hindi siya, it's not really that accurate to say it's like everything is equal in all aspects. Also, the transparency issue, right? People are saying that the Sinovac vaccine, they don't publish as much information as the Western vaccine developers like Pfizer, Moderna, etc. So may transparency issues rin confronting certain vaccine makers. And lalo na Chinese vaccine makers. So let's move on. Another thing that came up, or another issue that came up during Duterte's speech earlier, was that he also defended the late rollout or late securing of deals on the Philippines part, on his government's part. So the president started to say that, well, rich Western nations got the supply first. So ito yung paulit-ulit niyang sinasabi na you can't blame Galvez for the late rollout or the late securing of deals, because anyway, wala tayong laban sa rich Western nations who were able to give payments even during the development of these vaccines. Then the president also referred to the Senate hearing. Right? This week there was a Senate hearing on the national government vaccine plan where we heard senators, critiquing the vaccine plan. Bakit kulang-kulang sa information? Bakit parang we're prioritizing or favoring certain vaccines? So the president basically told people, don't believe in those investigations. He sowed doubt in those investigations. Then in the latter part of the meeting today, other officials spoke. So, yung isa doon si Health Secretary Duque, and he basically explained to the president about the first case of the B117 COVID-19 virus variant, which, as we know, is the virus variant from the UK that is more transmissible. So, nag-report siya about the details of the case, and basically what Duque wanted to say was that this case, this male from Quezon City, likely did not spread it to many people in the Philippines because anyway, he was detected upon his entry in the airport. Na-isolate na siya, nalaman na positive siya, so he had to go on quarantine. And basically, the Duque's messaging was it's under control, and the government is monitoring the situation. Next thing is Galvez listed what vaccines would be arriving in the Philippines, and he gave a status of the vaccine deals. So just a quick run through of what he said. He said that finally he was able to sign a deal with Sinovac, the Chinese firm developer, and 25 million doses ito. An initial 50,000 doses will arrive in February 20. That's a month away. Then he said that Pfizer would also be able to give 25 million to 40 million, and a small portion of this might be available as early as February. Then AstraZeneca, 70 million doses secured, and that they might arrive July to September this year. For the Janssen or the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, he said that the Philippines is in the final stages of negotiations. Moderna vaccine, also a US firm, Galvez said that it's possible na magkaroon ng deals ang Moderna with LGUs through tripartite agreements. So this is similar to the AstraZeneca deals we've heard local governments ink the past few days. Then lastly, the Gamaleya Institute, which is the Russian institute developing the Sputnik V vaccine, has committed to provide 50 million to 100 million doses. So when I talk about provide, right, it's not that accurate. Like, hindi lahat ng deals na to may actual signed agreement. We're only talking about Sinovac, AstraZeneca, and Novavax that actually have inked deals, whether it's with national government or with local governments and private sector. Then the next thing is Duterte also spoke about the list of priority sectors. We already know this na it's healthcare workers, frontliners, and then the elderly, the indigent population, and then military. But si Duterte went more detailed. He gave more detail with regards to frontliners. Sino nga ba yung exactly, sino sa frontliners yung mabibigyan ng priority? And after frontline health workers, there will be teachers, social workers, and other government workers. There's also, then after that, essential workers outside health, education, and the social welfare sector. So these are like workers in the agriculture, food, and tourism sectors. After that, yung social demographic groups, to be followed by OFWs and remaining workers, and then last, yung all remaining citizens. So if you're not in the sectors I mentioned before, all remaining citizens, you will be last in line. Another thing mentioned during the meeting was the president actually praised Enrique Razon of the Razon Group for his efforts in these vaccine efforts. So because si Vaccine Czar Galvez mentioned that Enrique Razon actually promised to pick up vaccines from Spain using his boats and his planes. So the president then later on in his speech said na he appreciates the sense of civic duty of Mr. Enrique Razon. And then towards the last part, the president asked about cold storage facilities. So this is very important because a lot of all vaccines require cold storage, and some, the most efficacious ones, require ultra cold storage. So he asked Duque and Galvez, ano nga ba yung status ng cold storage natin? Meron ba tayong facilities for this? So Galvez responded. He said that the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine, or RITM, can store vaccines in -20 to -70 degrees Celsius temperatures. Then Duque also said, he assured the president that nagtotalks na yung DOH with a third-party logistics provider who was supposed to provide end-to-end logistics from like delivery of the vaccine to warehousing, brokerage, storage, hauling, and distribution. So Duque was saying this provider can provide end-to-end distribution and deployment systems for the vaccines when they do arrive in the Philippines. And then Galvez mentioned that Moderna and Pfizer can only be rolled out in Metro Manila, Cebu City, and Davao City because these two vaccines require very cold temperatures, which only these areas currently have. Duque then gave an update that the Philippines was able to get 10 ultra-low freezers that can accommodate 550 liters of vaccines. So that's another facility or another equipment that we can use to store these vaccines. Then Galvez said that the private sector has been very helpful in providing consultants who are good at supply chain management. So yeah, those were the major things that we heard from the president tonight. It was the president and the pandemic task force officials. So as I said, it was a 54 minute long speech, and just to give kind of a clarification or a note that you should all remember is that the speech was edited. Hindi siya yung buong speech. It was cut so that the very important parts of the speech would, or what Malacanang felt was important for Filipinos to know, would be the one to be aired. So that's all for Rappler's first episode of the Rappler Recap. And I guess just to explain what we're trying to do here, it's a maiden episode. We're trying to give our viewers, our readers, an easier way to digest very long events, very long meetings of governments, and other newsworthy events that may stretch on for hours, and baka hindi nyo kaya mag-devote ng ganong karaming oras to those events. So Rappler Recap is a way for you to know what happened quickly, with context, with analysis from Rappler reporters. So if you like Rappler Recap, please give us feedback by commenting on this video and letting us know what you think. Do you think this is helpful for you? Do you think this was fun to watch or informative? So let us know. Again, I'm P. Renada. Thanks for watching.